Dass wir uns mit in einer Lebenslüge sehr bequem eingerichtet haben. Und diese Lebenslüge heißt eben, die anderen, wir sind die Guten, wir sind die Edlen, wir sind die Hilfreichen. Und die Wirklichkeit ist anders. Ich glaube, dass wir im Westen die Welt nicht erobert haben durch die Großartigkeit unserer Ideen, die Großartigkeit unserer Werte, die Großartigkeit unserer Religion, sondern dadurch, dass wir viel gnadenloser Gewalt angewendet haben als andere. Und wenn ich jetzt noch ein Stückchen ernster werden darf, es waren ja keine Muslime, die auf Kreuzzügen 4 Millionen Menschen massakriert haben. Es waren keine Muslime, die im Kolonialismus 50 Millionen Menschen umgebracht haben. Und es waren auch keine Muslime, die den Ersten und den Zweiten Weltkrieg mit 70 Millionen Toten angefangen haben. Und es waren keine Muslime, die 6 Millionen Juden umgebracht haben, sondern es war die Gewalttätigkeit der westlichen Welt.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Green, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also stand here today in the well of the House, Mr. Speaker, to announce my solidarity for justice, my solidarity with the Muslim community for justice, because I understand what it's like to be a part of a community that is treated unjustly. I lived through segregation in the United States of America. I know what it's like to go to the back door. I know what it's like to drink from filthy colored water fountains. I know what injustice looks like. I've seen its face. I know what it smells like. I've been in waiting rooms where only blacks could sit, and they were for blacks only because there were other places for others. So I don't want to see anything like that, similar to that. Anything that's remotely similar occur to someone else. So I'm standing here today in solidarity with the Muslim community because of the injustice that's being perpetrated against Islam. I am a Christian. My grandfather was a Christian minister. But I stand here to support Islam today, one of the great religions of the world. And I do this, Mr. Speaker, because to demean Islam by adding the word terrorist with it is an injustice to the religion. Islam is a peaceful religion. No religion condones the taking of innocent lives intentionally. Let me repeat this. No religion condones taking the innocence of the lives of innocent persons intentionally. This is why I'm here, because I want to make it clear that Islam does not condone this. We should not be talking about Islamic terrorists. Why not call them what they are? People who commit dastardly deeds, and if you do it in the name of a religion, that doesn't make what you do a part of the religion. And people ought not be found guilty by their affiliation with a religion. What these people are doing is evil, and we ought to call it such. It is not Islam, and we ought not, as a result, decide that we're going to bar all members of the Islamic faith from this country. That would be wrong, Mr. Speaker. To even consider doing it is something that I find repugnant. And we ought not do this to a great religion. I stand for justice, and I stand for justice for the Islamic faith.
Table. Radicalized Islam. Islam, as it's done in the Middle East, they have the oil, but they also have something else that is a trump card, and that is God. I should make that. They have faith. They have faith on their side. They believe in something. George Soros, all of his minions, they only believe in money. Faith in God trumps money every time. And everybody that he has to rule, he rules over. Are you for George Soros's plan? Do you even know what his plan is? How about Russia? Russia, radicals, they have to, both of them in the end, have to have a thugocracy. China is a thugocracy. And Islam, the ultimate. Chop your head off in the Middle East if you disagree. It's not the same Islam here, gang. Who gets control? Who gets control? They're all playing for the same world. But you notice I didn't say the United States is sitting at the table. We are a card. We're a card. We're not a player. If you don't think this has happened before, it has happened before. How did the most powerful naval force in the world for nearly 2 centuries just disappear? Remember when we started, we had to build new ships for England. How's that possible? The Navy on the Empire where the sun never set? How's it possible? Because we were this player at 1918. That was us. We had the money, and then we told people what to do. Islam, no matter what anybody else says, Islam, in the end, is the winner because faith trumps all of these things.
According to research, in order for a culture to maintain itself for more than 25 years, there must be a fertility rate of 2.11 children per family. With anything less, the culture will decline. Historically, no culture has ever reversed a 1.9 fertility rate. A rate of 1.3, impossible to reverse, because it would take 80 to 100 years to correct itself. And there is no economic model that can sustain a culture during that time. In other words, if 2 sets of parents each have 1 child, there are half as many children as parents. If those children have 1 child, then there are 1/4 as many grandchildren as grandparents. If only 1 million babies are born in 2006, it's hard to have 2 million adults enter the workforce in 2026. As the population shrinks, so does the culture. As of 2007, the fertility rate in France was 1.8, England 1.6, Greece 1.3, Germany 1.3, Italy 1.2, Spain 1.1. Across the entire European Union of 31 countries, the fertility is a mere 1.38. Historical research tells us these numbers are impossible to reverse. In a matter of years, Europe as we know it will cease to exist. Yet the population of Europe is not declining. Why? Immigration. Islamic immigration. Of all population growth in Europe since 1990, 90% has been Islamic immigration. France, 1.8 children per family. Muslims, 8.1. In southern France, traditionally one of the most populated church regions in the world, there are now more mosques than churches. 30% of children ages 20 and younger are Islamic. In the larger cities such as Nice, Marseille, and Paris, that number has grown to 45%. By 2027, 1 in 5 Frenchmen will be Muslim. In just 39 years, France will be an Islamic republic. In the last 30 years, the Muslim population of Great Britain rose from 82,000 to 2.5 million, a 30-fold increase. There are over 1,000 mosques, many of them former churches. In the Netherlands, 50% of all newborns are Muslim, and in only 15 years, half of the population of the Netherlands will be Muslim. In Russia, there are over 23 million Muslims. That's 1 out of 5 Russians. 40% of the entire Russian army will be Islamic. in just a few short years. Currently in Belgium, 25% of the population and 50% of all newborns are Muslim. The government of Belgium has stated 1/3 of all European children will be born to Muslim families by 2025, just 17 years away. The German government, the first to talk about this publicly, recently released a statement saying, "The fall in the German population can no longer be stopped. Its downward spiral is no longer reversible. It will be a Muslim state by the year 2050. Muammar al-Gaddafi of Libya said, "There are signs that Allah will grant victory to Islam in Europe, without swords, without guns, without conquest. We don't need terrorists. We don't need homicide bombers. The 50+ million Muslims in Europe will turn it into a Muslim continent within a few decades." There are currently 52 million Muslims in Europe. The German government said that number is expected to double in the next 20 years to 104 million. Closer to home, the numbers tell a similar story. Right now, Canada's fertility rate is 1.6, nearly a full point below what is required to sustain a culture. And Islam is now the fastest growing religion. Between 2001 and 2006, Canada's population increased by 1.6 million, 1.2 of those immigration. In the United States, the current fertility rate of American citizens is 1.6. With the influx of the Latino nations, the rate increases to 2.11, the bare minimum required to sustain a culture. In 1970, there were 100,000 Muslims in America. Today, there are over 9 million. The world is changing. It's time to wake up. 3 years ago, a meeting of 24 Islamic organizations was held in Chicago. The transcripts of that meeting showed in detail their plans to evangelize America through journalism, politics, education, and more. They said, "We must prepare ourselves for the reality that in 30 years, there will be 50 million Muslims living in America. The world that we live in is not the world in which our children and grandchildren will live." The Catholic Church recently reported that Islam has just surpassed their membership numbers. Some studies show that at Islam's current rate of growth, in 5 to 7 years, it will be the dominant religion of the world. As believers, we call upon you to join the effort to share the gospel message